tippers would at least
Oh,
raise
creating
it to
other
top.
king. What's the
It was D&D's co-creator Gary Gygax who attributed the fantasy fiction of Michael Moorcock and Paul Anderson for his inspiration in establishing alignment. The alignment system has undergone radical changes throughout the evolution of the game, and in the 1980s and 90s, alignment was important to assisting players in determining character actions and personality. By 4th edition, it was being phased out of the game, and now in 5th edition, the relevance of alignment has almost no meaning, and many of the spells and character restrictions found in earlier editions have been removed. First appearing on page 9 of Men in Magic, Volume 1 from 1974's original D&D, we are told, "Before the game begins, it is not only necessary to select a role, but it is also necessary to determine what stance the character will take: law, neutrality, or chaos." Those were the only 3 available alignments, and men, humans, could choose any of them. But dwarves, elves, gnomes, and halflings were prevented from being chaotic, and halflings could only be lawful. In that same book, we are given the spell Detect Evil. It was a first-level cleric spell and a second-level wizard spell. It is a spell to detect evil thoughts or intent in any creature or evilly enchanted object. The 1977 Holmes Basic edition was the first to expand on the definition and scope of alignment. This is where we are introduced to the 5-point alignment system. That update was taken from Strategic Review number 6, published in February of 1976. It was an editorial penned by Gary Gygax titled "The Meaning of Law and Chaos in Dungeons & Dragons." The article was reprinted on page 23 of the Best of Dragon magazine number 1. Since Holmes's original manuscript for basic D&D continued the 3-point alignment system from original D&D, we may assume it was Gary who expanded it to the 5-point system appearing in the published Holmes rulebook. In a different accompanying video, I'll provide a full reading of Gary's editorial. The 5-point alignment system included lawful good, chaotic good, neutral, lawful evil, and chaotic evil. It doesn't get mentioned often, but there was actually a 6th alignment called no alignment. Now, this was indicated on a number of monster stats. In the 2nd edition of Holmes Basic, we are given the explanation: if the monster's alignment is not given, it may be assumed to be an unintelligent beast that will attack anyone who comes near. Under that 5-point system, we do not have variations of neutrality, so no lawful, chaotic, good, or evil neutrals. You could align yourself with law and good, law and evil, chaos and good, chaos and evil, or just simply neutral. The 5-point system in Holmes was removed from Moldvay's 1981 Basic Edition, which returned to the original D&D lawful, chaotic, and neutral alignments. Holmes repeated the Detect Evil spell from original D&D, but also gave us a 2nd-level cleric spell, No Alignment. It allowed the cleric to know exactly the alignment of any creature. It was then in 1st edition AD&D we saw alignment expanded even further. Instead of the Holmes 5-point system, we now have the 9-point system 5th edition D&D still uses today. Some observant readers have noticed that, with very little exception, the 1st edition AD&D Monster Manual only uses the Holmes 5-point alignment system. Since Holmes Basic is the first time we are introduced to the axis system of good versus evil coupled with law versus chaos, and because I believe this is where a lot of confusion about the alignment system began, we'll review the full text from page 8 of the Holmes Basic Rulebook. Keeping in mind, this was likely penned by Gygax, not Holmes. Characters may be lawful, good or evil, neutral, or chaotic, good or evil. Lawful characters always act according to a highly regulated code of behavior, whether for good or evil. Chaotic characters are quite unpredictable and cannot be depended on to do anything except the unexpected. They are often, but not always, evil. Neutral characters, such as thieves, are motivated by self-interest and may steal from their companions or betray them if it is in their own best interest. Players may choose any alignment they want and need not reveal it to others. Note that the code of lawful good characters ensures that they will tell everyone they are lawful. There are some magical items that can be used only by one alignment of characters. If the Dungeon Master feels that a character has begun to behave in a manner inconsistent with his declared alignment, he may rule that he or she has changed alignment and penalize the character with a loss of experience points. An example of such behavior would be a good character who kills or tortures a prisoner. And there you have it. Not only was Holmes Basic the first time we see an official expansion of original D&D's alignments, but that was also the first time we are told that lawful good characters always act a certain way, and that a dungeon master can punish a character for acting outside of their stated alignment. And that's where everything breaks down. Dungeons & Dragons was officially asking players to consider a discussion on morality, a topic real-world philosophers and scholars have been debating for thousands of years. The rules also tell us DMs could punish players if their perspective didn't match. Ouch. Looking for a better definition, we hoped AD&D's first edition Player's Handbook would clarify things. What it told us was, it is possible that the selection of the class your character will profess has predetermined alignment. A druid is neutral, a paladin is lawful good. A thief can be neutral or evil. An assassin is always evil. Yet, except for druids and paladins, such restrictions still leave latitude. The thief can be lawful evil, chaotic neutral, or even neutral good. And the assassin has nearly as many choices. We were given some explanations of the different alignments. And then it says, while involuntary change of alignment is quite possible, it is very difficult for a character to voluntarily switch from one to another, except within limited areas. I find that very interesting, but even more useful was the following statement informing us that evil alignments can be varied along the like axis. So does that imply that evil characters can be flexible in the degree of evil and their adherence of law and chaos? And if evil characters are afforded that flexibility, what about good characters? Later in AD&D's 1979 first edition DMG, on page 23, it states, alignment describes the broad ethos of thinking, reasoning creatures, those unintelligent sorts being placed within the neutral area because they are totally uncaring. So, are the rules suggesting that neutral characters are uncaring? And then we are told, the overall behavior of the character or creature is delineated by alignment, or in the case of player characters, behavior determines actual alignment. And thus, alignment describes the worldview of creatures and helps to define what their actions, reactions, and purposes will be. It likewise causes a player character to choose an ethos which is appropriate to his or her profession, and alignment also aids players in the definition and role approach of their prospective game persona. So the rules are trying to tell us that alignment is an important aspect of role-playing. And then it explains law dictates that order and organization is necessary and desirable, while chaos holds to the opposite view. Law generally supports the group as more important than the individual, while chaos promotes the individual over the group. On good and evil, it says, basically stated, the tenets of good are human rights, or in the case of AD&D, creature rights. Each creature is entitled to life, relative freedom, and the prospect of happiness. Cruelty and suffering are undesirable. Evil, on the other hand, does not concern itself with rights or happiness. We are then informed there can never exist a lawful chaos or an evil good. And these and their reverses are dichotomous. This is not to say they cannot exist in the same individual or creature if it is insane or controlled by another entity, but as general divisions, they are mutually exclusive pairs. The detect evil and no alignment spells reappear in both first and second editions of AD&D, with expanded descriptions. Second edition AD&D also gives the DM authority to punish a player's alignment change with a substantial loss of experience points. Then in third edition, clerics are granted detect evil, detect good, detect law, and detect chaos. Wizards no longer have access to detect evil, and the spell no alignment disappears entirely from the player's handbook. In fourth edition, the player's handbook says, if you choose an alignment, meaning you may now opt out, as we are given an option for unaligned. In this edition, there are only 5 alignments: good, lawful good, evil, chaotic evil, and unaligned. Good characters most closely resemble chaotic good from earlier editions, while evil characters most closely resemble lawful evil, and unaligned is essentially true neutral. For 2014's 5th edition, the 2-axis 9-point alignment system from previous editions was restored. However, alignment restrictions for paladins, barbarians, and druids has been removed entirely from the game. I realize that's a lot of information to digest, but I felt like we needed to understand where alignment had originated and why it has remained such a debated topic, to the point now where rather than try to fix a broken part of the game, it seems a lot of people just want to remove it entirely. Which is a shame, since the struggle between good and evil is definitely relevant to heroic fantasy. Removing alignment from D&D would be like removing the light and dark side of the Force from Star Wars. So why is it happening? When I set out to make this video, I wanted to say that the problem with alignment came not from the published rules, but from people thinking they needed to be extreme in their behavior. I wanted to tell you that the rules don't actually tell you to be extreme. But you know what? In several places, they kinda did. When the rules told us that lawful good characters always act a certain way, I think it's important to recognize that the use of words such as always and never are typically exaggerations used for emphasis more than for accuracy. Which I guess is why my gaming groups ignored such stringent interpretations of those passages. We pretty quickly realized how unplayable and annoying it would be. Also, in those very same rules seemingly contradicting other advice, we are informed it is very difficult for a character to voluntarily switch from one alignment to another, and evil alignments can be varied along the like axis. What I take from that is the rules did recognize shades of gray. In fact, the charts themselves illustrate broad areas a character may occupy within their chosen alignment. And finally, if nuance and subtlety were not intended to be an aspect of alignment, why did the first edition AD&D Dungeon Master's Guide include commentary and guidance on graphing alignment, which said, it is of importance to keep track of player character behavior with respect to their professed alignment. Actions do speak far more eloquently than professions, and each activity of a player character should reflect his or her alignment. There it said should, not must. After offering us some explanation of character behavior, it told us such drift should be noted by you, the DM, and when it takes the individual into a new alignment area, you should then inform the player that his or her character has changed alignment. But it also suggests that it is quite possible for a character to drift around in the alignment area, making only small shifts due to behavior. However, any major action which is out of alignment will cause a major shift. The rules then explained how alignment is even more important to characters who are defined by the gods they worship. It is of utmost importance to keep rigid control of alignment behaviors with respect to such characters as serve deities who will accept only certain alignments, those who are paladins, those with evil familiars, and so on. Part of the role they have accepted requires a set behavior mode, and its benefits are balanced by this. Therefore, failure to demand strict adherence to alignment behavior is to allow a game abuse. And then 2 years later, in Dragon Magazine number 52, published August of 1981, Holmes commented on alignment in regard to the Moldvay Basic edition, stating, character alignment. This is the most difficult of the D&D concepts to get across. The new rules spend much more space on alignments and do a much better job of explaining them, using practical examples. Alignment is law, chaos, and neutral. Good and evil are not discussed as separate alignments at all, which I think makes better sense. The first basic set had one of those diagrams, which said that blink dogs were lawful good and brass dragons were chaotic good. I never felt that was particularly helpful. I am sure Gary Gygax has an idea in his mind of what chaotic good or other obscure alignments, etc. may be, but it certainly isn't clear to me. Without meaning to be irreverent, I am also sure that Buddha knew what he meant by nirvana, but that doesn't clarify it in my mind either. I think the new rules simplify the issue appropriately. So even Dr. Holmes thought alignment was screwed up and confusing. He preferred the original D&D 3-point system. His statements also support our assumption that it was Gary Gygax who added the 5-point alignment system we find in the Holmes Basic edition. So what does all this mean? Well, frankly, it means alignment is and has always been a convoluted mess. But that doesn't mean we can't make some sense of it. And it doesn't mean that you should throw it out entirely. What I can do is I can tell you how I have translated all of that and how alignment influences my own D&D games. And if you'd like to learn my tips for D&D game alignment and how you can make this effective in your games, be sure to check out my videos on the topic as they become available. I'll add links to this video once they're uploaded. But first, if this information has been useful to you so far, please remember to stab that like button And if this is your first time here, please subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss any future uploads. As always, I'm your host, Atten, here at We Love TTRPGs, and I thank you so much for watching.